Captain Maya Rodriguez had expected a lot of things when she volunteered to be humanity's first galactic diplomat. She'd expected bureaucracy. She'd expected cultural misunderstandings. She'd expected at least one alien to ask if humans really did keep their organs on the inside like some kind of biological freaks. What she hadn't expected was for the docking bay alarms to start shrieking the moment her shuttle's engines fired their routine deceleration burn. Attention, unidentified vessel, came a voice that sounded like someone gargling marbles while having an anxiety attack. You have deployed weapons of mass destruction in our peaceful harbor. Cease your explosive bombardment immediately. Maya blinked at her comm panel. This is Captain Rodriguez aboard the human diplomatic shuttle Persistence. I'm literally just trying to park. Explosive propulsion detected. The voice wailed. Chemical warfare protocols activated. Through her viewports, Maya watched as the massive Galactic Council station transformed from a welcoming beacon of interstellar cooperation into what looked like a military fortress preparing for siege. Shield generators hummed to life, defensive turrets swiveled toward her tiny shuttle, and she could swear she saw several smaller ships actually fleeing the area. All because she'd used rocket engines. You know, like literally every spacefaring civilization had to do to achieve basic locomotion. Look, Maya said into her comm, trying to keep the sarcasm out of her voice and failing miserably. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. But if you think chemical combustion is a weapon of mass destruction, wait until you find out about our digestive systems. There was a long pause. Then please clarify the nature of this digestive threat. Maya closed her eyes and wondered if it was too late to fake engine trouble and go home. Never mind. Requesting permission to dock at Bay 94 as scheduled. Permission granted under extreme security protocols. Any aggressive maneuvering will result in immediate vaporization. Please define aggressive maneuvering as anything faster than botanical growth rates. As Maya piloted her shuttle through what felt like the universe's most paranoid obstacle course, dodging scanning beams and sensor arrays that seemed designed by someone who'd watched too many invasion movies, she got her first real look at the beings who ran galactic civilization. Administrator Klexnor was waiting for her in the docking bay, and Maya had to admit he was exactly what she'd pictured when she heard that voice. Picture a lime-green blob with 6 eye stalks, all of which were currently darting around in different directions like a surveillance system designed by someone with severe trust issues. He was wearing what appeared to be official robes, though on a creature without a fixed shape. The effect was more like someone had thrown a tablecloth over a nervous puddle. Captain Rodriguez, Klexnor gurgled, his eye stalks focusing on her with what she assumed was meant to be dignity, but came across more like barely contained panic. Welcome to Galactic Council Station Harmony. I am Administrator Klexnor, and I must inform you that your arrival has triggered 17 separate security alerts, 12 evacuation protocols, and 1 request for religious last rites. Maya stepped off her shuttle, noting how every single one of Klexnor's eyes tracked the movement like she might spontaneously explode. And that's just from parking? Your species employs controlled detonation for basic transportation, Klexnor said, his voice climbing several octaves. The implications are deeply concerning. Wait, Maya said, holding up a hand and watching Klexnor flinch at the gesture. Are you telling me that no other species in the galaxy figured out chemical rockets? Most civilized beings discovered anti-gravity or dimension-folding technology long before resorting to explosive measures. Maya looked around the docking bay, which was clearly designed for beings who'd never had to deal with the messy realities of Newton's third law. Everything was sleek curves and floating platforms maintained by technology so advanced it probably considered combustion engines about as sophisticated as banging rocks together. Which, she was starting to realize, was exactly how they saw humanity. This is going to be a long day, Maya muttered. If Maya had thought the docking bay was paranoid, the security checkpoint was clearly designed by someone who considered paranoia a quaint hobby for optimists. The scanning tunnel looked like the inside of a medical device designed to peer into your soul and find it wanting. Security Chief Forthak was waiting for her, and Maya immediately understood why Klexnor had seemed nervous. Imagine a praying mantis that had gone to military school, developed trust issues, and spent its spare time reading worst-case scenario handbooks. His forearms were constantly moving, adjusting scanners and weapons with the fluid precision of someone who expected trouble and was disappointed when it didn't immediately materialize. Human Maya Rodriguez, Vortak clicked, his compound eyes reflecting her image in dozens of unsettling angles. Prepare for comprehensive threat assessment. Threat assessment? Maya asked, stepping into the scanning chamber. I'm here for a diplomatic meeting, not a weapons inspection. The scanners activated, and immediately every alarm in the facility seemed to have an opinion about Maya's existence. Warning, subject inhaling oxygen. Chemical warfare protocols active. Vortak's antennae twitched violently. Explain your atmospheric manipulation techniques. Maya stared at him. I'm breathing. It's kind of a biological requirement. Oxygen is highly reactive, Vortak insisted, making notes on a tablet that looked like it had been designed for someone with way too many fingers. Your species weaponizes it for cellular energy production. That's called metabolism, Maya said slowly. It's how we stay alive. Warning, rhythmic seismic activity detected. Possible sonic weaponry. Now Vortak was practically vibrating with anxiety. The beating. Make it stop. Maya pressed a hand to her chest, feeling her completely normal human heartbeat. Are you seriously telling me my heart is a weapon? Sustained percussion creates psychological pressure, Vortak explained, as if this was obvious. Your cardiovascular system operates like a biological drum of war. At this point, Maya was beginning to suspect that the entire galaxy had collectively lost its mind somewhere between developing faster-than-light travel and basic pattern recognition. But it got worse. Warning, subject displaying dental weaponry. Maya had smiled. That was it. She'd smiled at what she thought was an absurd situation. And now every scanner in the room was treating her mouth like a loaded gun. Those are teeth, said a new voice, and Maya turned to see what appeared to be a walking mushroom in a lab coat shuffling toward them. Perfectly normal human dentition, designed for omnivorous food processing. Dr. Fizzlebottom, Vortak clicked disapprovingly. The human is clearly displaying bone daggers in a threatening manner. Dr. Quinzel Fizzlebottom was, Maya realized, probably her only ally in this entire station. Where everyone else seemed to view humanity as a barely contained apocalypse, the little mushroom creature looked genuinely excited to meet her. Nonsense, Fizzlebottom said, his cap-like head bobbing enthusiastically. Human facial expressions are communication tools. The display of teeth indicates friendliness, not aggression. Friendliness? Vortak's voice climbed to frequencies that probably bothered dogs on planets 3 systems away. She's showing us her killing implements as a gesture of friendship? Actually, Maya said, deciding to be helpful, in human culture, showing teeth can mean lots of things. Happiness, amusement, sometimes warning, sometimes threat assessment, and occasionally just because something's stuck between them. The silence that followed this explanation was so complete Maya could hear the station's life support system cycling. You have, Vortak said very carefully, multiple purposes for displaying weaponry? They're not weaponry, Fizzlebottom insisted. They're simply more efficient than the grinding plates most herbivorous species develop. More efficient? Vortak repeated. At what? Maya and Fizzlebottom exchanged glances. Maya was pretty sure she knew where this was going. And she was pretty sure she didn't want to explain the concept of carnivory to beings who clearly thought eating plants was the height of civilized behavior. Food processing, Maya said diplomatically. What kind of food requires such aggressive processing techniques? And there it was. The question Maya had been dreading since the moment she'd volunteered for this mission. How do you explain to a galaxy full of prey species that humans had evolved as predators? Well, Maya said, that's actually kind of a funny story. The Galactic Council chamber was, Maya had to admit, genuinely impressive. Picture the United Nations building, but designed by beings who understood that democracy looked better with more floating platforms and dramatically arranged seating that defied at least 3 laws of physics. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the space, a rainbow of scales, fur, chitin, and what appeared to be sentient geometric shapes. At the center of it all, on the highest platform, sat Council Prime Zalthior. If Klexnor was nervous anxiety and Vortak was militarized paranoia, Zalthior was dignity incarnate. Ancient, massive, and turtle-like, he spoke in the kind of measured tones usually reserved for pronouncing the fate of civilizations. Which Maya realized was probably exactly what he was about to do. Beings of the Council, Zalthior intoned, his voice carrying across the chamber like rolling thunder. Today we consider the petition of the species known as humanity for membership in our peaceful confederation. Maya straightened her shoulders and prepared to make the speech she'd been practicing for months. A speech about human values, achievements, and desire for peaceful cooperation among the stars. A speech designed to convince the galaxy that humanity deserved a seat at the cosmic table. She took exactly one step toward the speaking platform. Every alarm in the chamber screamed to life. Lockdown protocol activated, announced the station's AI in a voice that suggested it had been waiting for this moment. Predator species detected in Council chamber. Maya froze mid-step as blast shields slammed down over the exits and defensive barriers rose around the various alien delegations. In the span of 3 seconds, the Grand Chamber of Galactic Democracy had transformed into a bunker designed to survive whatever apocalypse Maya apparently represented. I literally just walked forward, Maya said to no one in particular. The forward locomotion, gasped Representative Squishbert from the Gellan delegation, a purple blob creature who was currently trying to hide behind his speaking podium. It's so aggressive, so directed, so purposeful. Human locomotion patterns indicate pursuit behavior, added Counselor Trill from the aviarian sector, her feathered form practically vibrating with panic. Observe the bipedal design. Ground-based hunting configuration. Maya looked down at her legs, then back up at the assembled aliens. You're afraid of walking? Not afraid, Zalthior corrected with the dignity of someone who was absolutely afraid but too proud to admit it. Concerned by your species' evident design for predatory pursuit. Those appendages, pointed out someone from the back of the chamber. They have joints that allow directional change without losing momentum. Classic persistence hunting adaptations. Maya was beginning to understand that she was living in the universe's most elaborate nature documentary, where she was simultaneously the narrator and the apex predator everyone was trying to avoid becoming dinner for. And the optical configuration, added another voice. Forward-facing eyes for depth perception and target acquisition. Opposable digits for tool manipulation and prey restraint. Vocal cords capable of coordinated pack communication across extended distances. Maya held up her hands in what she intended as a calming gesture. The chamber's collective gasp suggested this had been a mistake. She's displaying her manipulation tools, someone whispered with the kind of awe usually reserved for watching stars being born. 5 independent grasping elements per appendage. Observe the precision. She could operate complex machinery or disable multiple opponents simultaneously. I can also play piano, Maya said dryly, wiggling her fingers. The collective shudder that ran through the chamber suggested this was not the reassuring comment she'd intended. Zalthior raised one massive flipper-like appendage, and the chamber fell silent. Human Maya Rodriguez, he pronounced, before we can consider your species' petition, the Council requires clarification on numerous concerning aspects of human physiology and behavior. Such as? Maya asked, though she was beginning to suspect she didn't want to know. Your species' apparent biological requirement for dihydrogen monoxide consumption. Maya blinked. Water? A universal solvent capable of breaking down most known materials, Zalthior explained gravely. Your bodies are approximately 70% liquid chemical weapon. Your thermal regulation system, added Counselor Trill, which expels salt-based toxins through dermal excretion. You're talking about sweating, Maya said. Continuous chemical warfare deployment, nodded Representative Squishbert. Maya looked around the chamber, at hundreds of beings who had somehow concluded that basic human biology was an elaborate weapon system. She was starting to understand why Dr. Fizzlebottom had looked so excited to meet her. In a galaxy where everything humans did was considered terrifying, she was probably the most interesting thing to happen to xenobiology in centuries. Okay, Maya said, deciding to try a different approach. What if I told you about human culture instead? Our art, our music, our achievements? The chamber fell silent. Zalthior's ancient eyes fixed on her with something that might have been curiosity or might have been the look a turtle gives a particularly interesting head of lettuce. Very well, he pronounced. Show us what your species has accomplished. Maya smiled and tried to ignore the way every being in the chamber immediately checked their emergency exits. Maya had prepared what she thought was a perfectly reasonable presentation about human civilization. Art, literature, scientific achievements, cultural diversity. The kind of slideshow that said we're sophisticated beings who deserve a place in galactic society. Not we're barely contained monsters who happen to have figured out space travel. She should have known better. The first slide was a beautiful image of the cave paintings at Lascaux. Humans' earliest artistic expressions, painted by firelight 30,000 years ago. A touching demonstration of humanity's creative spirit and cultural heritage. Fire weaponization confirmed, the station AI announced helpfully. The chamber erupted in horrified gasps, and what Maya was beginning to recognize as the universal galactic sound for "we're all going to die." It's art, Maya said quickly. Cave paintings, historical cultural artifacts. Your species tamed plasma, wheezed Administrator Klexnor, his eye stalks drooping with what appeared to be existential despair. For recreational purposes. Fire isn't plasma, Maya started to say, then realized this probably wasn't the time for a physics lesson. It's just controlled combustion. Very small controlled combustion. Controlled combustion. Someone screamed from the back of the chamber. They admit to pyrotechnic mastery. Dr. Fizzlebottom was frantically waving his little mushroom arms. Fire was a crucial development in human technological advancement, he called out. It enabled cooking, metallurgy, and numerous beneficial applications. This, Maya realized, was another mistake. Metallurgy? Zalthior's voice had dropped to the kind of whisper that suggested he was contemplating the heat death of the universe. Your species weaponizes molecular structure modification? Maya clicked to the next slide, hoping agriculture might be less threatening than fire. The image showed golden wheat fields under a blue sky, with a farmer operating a combined harvester. Ecological warfare detected. Large-scale environmental manipulation confirmed. Maya stared at her presentation screen. It's farming. We grow food. You domesticate other life forms? Counselor Trill said in a voice that suggested Maya had just admitted to galaxy-wide genocide. You force them into artificial evolutionary patterns for your benefit. We selective breed crops to be more nutritious and easier to grow, Maya explained. The silence that followed this statement was so profound Maya wondered if the station's life support had failed. Selective breeding? Vorthak clicked slowly, his compound eyes reflecting Maya's image in what seemed like increasingly alarmed angles. Controlled genetic manipulation of other species. It's agriculture, Dr. Fizzlebottom said desperately. Most species practice some form of cultivation. Most species, Zalthior corrected with the gravity of someone delivering a cosmic judgment, ask plants nicely to grow and hope for the best. This human speaks of forcing evolutionary compliance. Maya clicked to her next slide, which showed the Sydney Opera House, thinking architecture might be safer than genetics. Psychological warfare infrastructure, the AI proclaimed. Sonic manipulation facility detected. It's an opera house, Maya said weakly. You construct dedicated buildings for acoustic manipulation, Representative Squishbird observed, his purple form quivering with what Maya hoped was fascination rather than terror. The mass psychological influence through organized sound. Music is cultural expression, Maya tried. Rhythmic audio patterns designed to influence emotional states, Vorthak translated. Coordinated neural manipulation through harmonic frequencies. Maya looked desperately at Dr. Fizzlebottom, who was making notes on his tablet with the enthusiasm of someone watching their favorite theory prove itself correct in the most catastrophic way possible. Human cultural achievements are remarkably sophisticated, he said proudly. Dr. Fizzlebottom, Maya said, please don't help. But Fizzlebottom was clearly in full academic mode now. Human endurance capabilities alone are extraordinary. They can maintain pursuit over distances that would exhaust most galactic species. Maya closed her eyes. Please stop talking. And their pack bonding behaviors, Fizzlebottom continued enthusiastically. They form multi-generational alliance networks with completely different species. I've read reports of humans domesticating apex predators and maintaining them as household companions. The chamber fell so silent Maya could hear the structural stress of the station dealing with the gravitational forces of several hundred different life support systems. They keep, Zalthier said very, very carefully. Predators as companions. Dogs, Maya said quickly. We domesticated wolves thousands of years ago. They're very friendly now. Mostly. Emergency lockdown extended, announced the AI. Human confirmed to maintain predator allies. Maya looked around the chamber, at hundreds of beings who were now viewing her not just as a potential threat, but as the leader of some kind of interstellar predator pack. Which she was beginning to realize was exactly what she looked like to beings whose entire evolutionary history had been about hiding from things with teeth. Look, Maya said. I know this all sounds concerning, but humans are actually very peaceful. We just want to join the galactic community and learn from other species. The chamber's collective shudder suggested this had been exactly the wrong thing to say. Learn from other species, Zalthier repeated slowly. Maya realized her mistake a moment too late to stop herself from making it worse. We're naturally curious, she explained. We like to understand how things work. In the corner of her vision, she could see Dr. Fizzlebottom frantically shaking his cap, but Maya was committed now. We study everything. Other cultures, other technologies, other ways of thinking. We adapt and incorporate the best ideas from everyone we meet. The silence that followed this statement was interrupted only by what sounded like someone in the back of the chamber quietly having a panic attack. Adaptive learning behaviors, someone whispered. Cultural assimilation techniques, added another voice. They absorb the characteristics of other species they encounter, Vorthak concluded, his voice climbing toward frequencies that probably violated several noise ordinances. Maya looked around the chamber and realized she'd just described humanity in a way that made them sound like the galaxy's most terrifying cultural parasites, which, from the perspective of beings who'd spent millions of years developing unique civilizations, was probably exactly how it sounded. This is not going well, she muttered. The emergency lockdown had sealed everyone in the council chamber for what the station AI cheerfully announced would be the duration of the containment period, estimated at 17 standard galactic cycles, or until threat neutralization is achieved. Maya wasn't entirely sure what threat neutralization meant in this context, but she was pretty sure she didn't want to find out. Dr. Fizzlebottom had managed to scuttle over to where Maya was sitting on the speaking platform, but his little mushroom form radiating what she hoped was scientific curiosity, rather than morbid fascination with her impending doom. This is fascinating, he said, confirming her fears. I've never seen the council react quite this dramatically to a membership application. Gee, Maya said. I can't imagine why. Around them, the various alien delegations had arranged themselves into what appeared to be defensive huddles, with the larger species forming protective circles around the smaller ones. Maya noticed that all of them were facing outward, which meant they were all watching her with the kind of attention usually reserved for unexploded ordnance. Dr. Fizzlebottom, Maya said carefully, can I ask you something? Of course. What exactly do you think humans are? Fizzlebottom's cap tilted in what Maya assumed was the mushroom equivalent of thoughtful consideration. An absolutely remarkable species. The first obligate persistence predators to achieve technological civilization, the first apex predators to develop cooperative interspecies relationships, and possibly the first beings in galactic history to weaponize curiosity. Maya stared at him. Weaponized curiosity? Your species actively seeks out new experiences in unknown situations. Most civilized beings spend considerable effort avoiding uncertainty, That's called exploration, Maya said. It's how we learn things. Yes, Fizzlebottom agreed enthusiastically. You deliberately expose yourselves to potentially dangerous unknowns for the purpose of acquiring knowledge. It's absolutely unprecedented. Maya was beginning to understand that she was looking at the galaxy's greatest cultural misunderstanding. Dr. Fizzlebottom, how did most species in the galaxy develop civilization? The standard pattern is quite sensible, Fizzlebottom explained. Develop advanced hiding technologies, achieve perfect camouflage or underground habitation, create completely safe environments, then gradually develop science and philosophy from positions of absolute security. And humans? Humans appear to have developed civilization by actively confronting every dangerous thing they encountered and figuring out how to make it useful. Maya thought about this. Fire, metallurgy, agriculture, domestication. When she looked at human history through the lens of beings who'd spent millions of years perfecting the art of not being noticed, she had to admit it probably looked like an instruction manual for terrifying everything in your environment into submission. Dr. Fizzlebottom, Maya said slowly, are we the only predator species in the galaxy? Oh no, Fizzlebottom said cheerfully. There are thousands of predator species. Most of them are quite intelligent, actually. Maya felt a brief surge of relief, which was immediately crushed by Fizzlebottom's next statement. They're just smart enough not to develop technology or attempt interstellar contact. The general predator consensus seems to be that revealing yourself to the galaxy is unnecessarily complicated when you can simply eat things quietly on your home world. So we're the first predator species stupid enough to announce ourselves to the galaxy? I prefer to think of humans as the first predator species optimistic enough to assume the galaxy might want to be friends. Maya looked around the chamber, where hundreds of alien beings were still maintaining their defensive positions and occasionally making what sounded like last will and testament recordings. That's certainly one way to put it, she said. The really remarkable thing, Fizzlebottom continued, is that human pack bonding behaviors extend beyond your own species. You form emotional attachments to completely unrelated life forms. You've been known to risk your lives to protect beings that provide no survival advantage. Maya thought about every human who'd ever rescued a stray cat, donated to wildlife conservation, or cried during a nature documentary. That's just being decent. The most species in the galaxy, that's the most terrifying thing of all. Why? Listen. Fizzlebottom's voice dropped to what Maya assumed was the mushroom equivalent of a whisper. Because it means humans don't just dominate other species. You adopt them. Maya looked around the chamber with new eyes. These beings weren't afraid that humans would conquer them. They were afraid that humans would decide to protect them, and apparently that was somehow worse. Oh, Maya said quietly. The galaxy has spent millions of years developing a very stable system, Fizzlebottom explained. Prey species build civilizations, predators stay on their homeworlds, and everyone maintains a comfortable distance from everyone else. Humans represent the possibility that this entire system might change. Into what? No what? No one knows, Fizzlebottom admitted. That's what makes it so terrifying. And so exciting. Maya sat in silence for a moment, processing the realization that humanity's greatest diplomatic challenge wasn't proving they were peaceful. It was proving that the galaxy might actually want the kind of change humans represented. Dr. Fizzlebottom, Maya said finally, do you think there's any chance this membership hearing might go in our favor? Fizzlebottom looked around the chamber, where several species appeared to be conducting what looked like religious ceremonies in preparation for what they obviously considered their impending doom. Well, he said thoughtfully, if nothing else, you've certainly made an impression. Maya stood up, and the collective intake of breath from several hundred alien beings created what was probably the galaxy's most intimidating standing ovation. She decided to take this as encouragement rather than preparation for her execution. Council Prime Zalthior, Maya said, her voice carrying across the chamber with the kind of authority that came from realizing you literally couldn't make things worse. Members of the Galactic Council, I think we need to talk. Zalthior's ancient eyes focused on her with the weight of cosmic judgment. Speak, human Maya Rodriguez. I've been listening to your concerns about my species, Maya began, and I want you to know that every single one of them is completely accurate. The chamber's silence was so complete, Maya wondered if she'd accidentally broken the translation systems. Humans are persistence predators. We do form pack bonds with other species. We do seek out dangerous unknowns because we're curious about them. We do adapt and learn from every culture we encounter. Representative Squishbert made a sound like a deflating balloon. We also, Maya continued, use these abilities to protect things we care about. She turned to Dr. Fizzlebottom, who was practically vibrating with excitement at being part of what was either a historic diplomatic breakthrough or a spectacular public disaster. Dr. Fizzlebottom, when I first arrived at this station, you were the only being who wasn't afraid of me. You defended my species to security forces, you tried to help me during my presentation disaster, and you've spent the last hour explaining to me why my presence here is terrifying everyone. It seemed like the collegial thing to do, Fizzlebottom said modestly. And now, Maya said, addressing the chamber, I consider Dr. Fizzlebottom a friend. Not because he's useful to me, not because he provides any survival advantage, but because he showed kindness to someone who was confused and far from home. She could see various alien delegations exchanging glances, and Maya realized she had their attention in a way her slideshow about human achievements never could have managed. This is what humans do, Maya explained. We form relationships. We make alliances. We decide that other beings matter to us, and then we protect them. Not because we have to, but because that's what friends do for each other. The pack bonding behavior, Zalthier said slowly. Friendship, Maya corrected. Community. The understanding that we're all stronger when we work together. And you extend this behavior to non-humans? Counselor Trill asked, her feathers still fluffed with nervous energy. Dr. Fizzlebottom is my friend, Maya said simply. If someone threatened him, I'd defend him. If he needed help, I'd provide it. If he wanted to show me his homeworld's mushroom gardens, I'd be honored to see them. The chamber remained silent, but Maya could sense something shifting in the quality of their attention. This is the most dangerous thing about humans, Zalthier pronounced with cosmic gravity. Maya's heart sank. She'd tried to show them that humanity could be trusted, and apparently she'd only confirmed their worst fears. You make other beings want to be part of your pack. Maya blinked. Is that bad? It is unprecedented, Zalthier continued, and unprecedented developments require unprecedented responses. The Council Prime rose from his platform with the kind of dramatic dignity that suggested he'd been practicing this moment for decades. The Galactic Council will now vote on humanity's membership application. Maya held her breath as lights began appearing around the chamber. Green for acceptance, red for rejection, amber for abstention. For a moment that felt like it lasted several geological ages, the lights flickered in what appeared to be random patterns. Then the tally appeared on the main display. The motion passes, Zalthier announced. Humanity is granted probationary membership in the Galactic Council. Maya felt her knees go weak with relief, but Zalthier wasn't finished. With conditions, he added, and Maya's brief celebration crashed to a halt. Given humanity's unique capabilities and unprecedented approach to interspecies relations, the Council hereby designates humanity as the galaxy's official protector species. Protector species? Maya asked. When member worlds face threats they cannot handle alone, they may request human assistance. When diplomatic situations require beings capable of forming rapid alliance networks, humans will be called upon. When the galaxy faces challenges that require persistence, adaptability, and the willingness to confront dangerous unknowns, humanity will serve. Maya looked around the chamber, where hundreds of alien beings were watching her with expressions she was slowly learning to interpret. Not fear, she realized. Hope. You want us to be the galaxy's bodyguards, Maya said. We want you to be what you already are, Zalthier replied. Beings who make friends out of strangers and family out of friends. Maya felt a smile spreading across her face, and for once the chamber's collective reaction wasn't panic. It was something that looked suspiciously like anticipation. "There is one final matter," Maya said, reaching into her diplomatic pouch. "I brought something from Earth as a gesture of goodwill." Every alarm in the chamber activated at once. "Chemical warfare deployment detected," the station AI announced with what sounded like resignation. Maya held up a small container. "They're cookies," she said. "Chocolate chip. I made them myself." The silence that followed was broken by Dr. Fizzlebottom's excited voice. "Human domestic food preparation. I've read about this. It's a bonding ritual involving the transformation of raw materials into consumable gifts." "You cook?" Zalthir asked with the kind of awe usually reserved for witnessing supernovas. "I bake," Maya corrected. "It's therapeutic. Also, these particular cookies have been known to make friends out of enemies and solve diplomatic crises through the power of sugar butter and vanilla extract." She opened the container, and the smell of chocolate chip cookies wafted through the chamber's atmosphere recycling system. The first alien to approach was, unsurprisingly, Dr. Fizzlebottom. He accepted a cookie with the solemnity of someone participating in a historic first contact ritual, took a careful bite, and immediately made a sound that the universal translator rendered as transcendent joy. "It's weapons-grade deliciousness," he announced to the chamber. Within minutes, Maya found herself surrounded by alien diplomats who had apparently decided that whatever threat humans might pose, it was worth the risk for a chance to try these mysterious baked goods. Representative Squishbert turned out to make delighted squeaking sounds when he ate sugar. Counselor Trill's feathers shifted through several colors that Maya assumed indicated pleasure. Even Security Chief Vorthak admitted that chocolate was an acceptable form of chemical warfare. As Maya watched hundreds of beings from across the galaxy bonding over cookies, she realized that Dr. Fizzlebottom had been right. Humans did weaponize everything they touched. They just happened to weaponize it with friendship, curiosity, and baked goods. "So," Maya said to Dr. Fizzlebottom as they watched Zalthir attempt to eat a cookie with dignity befitting his ancient status, "what do you think? Are humans ready to be the galaxy's official protector species?" Fizzlebottom looked around the chamber, where former strangers were sharing cookies and attempting to communicate in the universal language of sugar-induced happiness. "I think," he said thoughtfully, "the galaxy has no idea what it's gotten itself into." Maya grinned, showing her allegedly terrifying human teeth to a room full of new friends who were too busy enjoying cookies to remember they were supposed to be afraid. "Perfect," she said. "That's exactly how we like it." And in the back of her mind, Maya was already planning humanity's next diplomatic triumph. She was thinking something involving pizza might work well for the follow-up meeting. After all, if the galaxy thought chocolate chip cookies were dangerous, wait until they discovered the devastating diplomatic potential of cheese and pepperoni. The universe, Maya reflected, was about to become a much more interesting place.